Alright, let's try this one more time. Merchant, I'm ready for my reward. Don't make me have to take it!
God, what the hell?
What in Ra's name is wrong with you people?
Hi, it's me, Shadow Man. I returned to open more cardboard, but make sure you click the subscribe button, because otherwise I'll disappear into nothing. Welcome back to Shaddoll from Scratch, where we yet again are going to open one of these
Family friendly.
Because guess what? We still need to find Dragoon. Here's a pair of scissors. Yeet yeet. I don't know what I'm doing. It's too early in the morning for me to be
family friendly
like this. My god, I'm not awake enough to be doing pack openings. I need my coffee, I need my Dragoon, I need my everything, please. Please give me my everything. Here we go again. 3 packs of Lost Tin of Memories. I'm starting with this one because now I've punched it. I punched it for good luck so that you're aware of it. There we go. Are we ready for disappointment? Dino Wrestler Coel Silat. Dino Wrestler Marshall Ankelo. There's a lot of these.
friendly.
Lorenza Seastar, Fusion of Fire, Guardragon Core Awakening, Speedo Burstu Dragoon, Wailing of the Unchained Souls. That is a cool looking card. Dances with Beasts. Useless. Infinitrack Earth Slicer, Medusa Watcher of the Evil Eye, and then Dragoonity Knight Romulus as our secret rare. Speaking of Dragon Links, we got Striker Dragon last episode. Is this just what we're doing now? Now that we have Romulus too? Freaking hell, man. Right, White Armor Monochros and Infinitrack Escape Redemption, Ranjururu, nothing else. That's unfortunate. Well, now we have a Romulus to support our Striker Dragon. Maybe I should just switch everything up, go play Dragon Links instead, win all the matches, get 16 negates turn 1, and force our opponent to watch in horror as nothing happens. Right then, time 3, flyback, Tenny Spirit Shitana. Guardragon Prominescence, Salamangreat Foxer, Tenny Spirit Adhora, Neo Space Connector, Zerziel Ruler of the Evil Eyed. That's cool looking. Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid, Witchcrafter Shmieta. That's a cool one. Get Out! I love the name of this card. It's just straight up Get Out. And then for a secret, we get Witchcrafter Edel. I do kind of want to build a Witchcrafter deck. These guys are cool. Time Thief Regulator, Monk of the Tenyi, Unchained Twins Rakia, Basilius, Evil Eye of the Gorgionio, Guided Beast Comeback, and Control Pass. Another dud. I do like Edel, but it's not useful for our deck. But I like him, so it's cool. Right, we're digging into another tin. We need to get the tin. Give me that tin. Oh, please, God, baby. I need to get Dragoon. Andrake, Bezel Ship, Gigaspinos Vivante, Paro, and what now? Escrimamenci. Sure. This was a purple card and it made me upset. Salamander Vela Chimera, Test Panther as our first super. Unchained Solar Disaster, Evil Eye Awakening, Witchcrafter Golem Maruru. Oh, shit. That's a pretty good prismatic secret. Borreload Savage Dragon. I didn't even see this at first. That's adorable. Borreload Savage Dragon. If we had more available tuners, the only one we have being Falco, we could potentially play this. But again, the only one we have currently is Falco. How is Falco going to fuse into this? He'd need a level 6. And we need to have gone a Link Monster out. So it's not good for us. It's such a good card, though. Maybe we should just swap to Dragon Links now, because fucking look at this shit. It's telling us, go play Dragon Links, it's a better deck. Good lord. Alright, well, nothing here is gonna be of any difference to us. Wow. I'm not gonna say that those packs were a dud, because honestly, if we were playing another deck, these two cards are super good, right? Having access to this is nice, because that means if we ever want to take on a more Link-focused type deck, this guy is a perfect fit for it. So I'm not too upset about that, actually. But, no Dragoon this week either. Very unfortunate. Well, I guess we're doing no changes to the deck for another week, and we just have to pray for the best, don't we? Well.
Wake up. Come on, I don't have all day. Rise and shine, Floofball. It's me, tour guide. I heard you managed to finish your first challenge. Well done.
Yeah, I did manage to do that, but you're the merchant's co-worker?
Yep. Mochi and I go way back. Used to know him during kindergarten. Kind of creepy how his face never changed. But that is not the point right now. Welcome to the challenge board. Here, all your fancy viewers have set up challenges for you to perform. Completing one nets you rewards based on the difficulty, but fail, and there will be consequences. Understood?
Loud and clear. Speaking of which, I would actually like to attempt that lockout challenge.
You got it, boss. I'll get it ready for you. Now get out there, and best of luck.
Thanks, tour guide. I'll see you next week, but for now, we got 5 duels to get to, so sit tight, everybody. So for our first duel of today, we're playing up against Traptrix, which is essentially a deck that does exactly what it sounds like. They play a lot of traps. Our opponent immediately starts off by playing Terraforming, going into Lair of Darkness, and then normal summoning Lilith, Lady of Lament, which is one of the key cards to their strategy. Whenever a card dies thanks to Lair of Darkness, they're going to get a token, and it can be sacked with Lady Lilith, I should say. Lilith can also sacrifice our cards as long as Lair of Darkness is on the board, which is kind of horrifying. During our turn, we simply set a Super Poly, set a Hedgehog, and pass the turn, hoping that we can do something else. Our opponent then activates one of the Phantom Knight trap cards, which I believe is Shade Brigade, then activating Lilith's effect to sacrifice it to gain some cards. She then gets a token because a creature died this turn, and we flip up our Hedgehog. We decide to take an Shaddoll Fusion to our hand, because Shaddoll Fusion at this point will be kind of dead, and we decide to go into Apkalone. At this point, our opponent activates Gravedigger's Trap Hole, which turns out to be our arch nemesis, because it's going to negate effects in the graveyard and hit us for 2k in doing so. That's horrifying. We do get a Shade token at the end of the turn, not that it really helps us much, and Dragon manages to destroy another Shade Brigade in the back there. Lilith's effect activates again, and she sets Different Dimension Ground, which just makes every card going to the graveyard go to the Banish for 1 turn. Again, absolutely horrifying for us, considering we want to make use of our graveyard. We take another beating and go down to 4k life points, to where Lair of Darkness yet again creates another token on his side of the field, and our hand is not really going to deal with it that well. We're forced to set our Ash Blossom, and when Lilith activates her effect again, I decide to use Ghost Ogre to blow it up. At this point, we get another token from Lair of Darkness, and we pass the turn. Our opponent activates Reasoning, and I name 3, hoping he won't get another Lilith out, but he doesn't, and he instead gets Arana, the Wicked Warden. We activate our Shaddoll Incarnation in order to bring back Apkalone, but our opponent has Darkest Diabolos in hand. Darkest Diabolos is terrifying, so we immediately decide to get rid of it using Super Poly. It can come back, but at this point I may as well, do it. We go into Winda, to which our opponent chains a Bottomless Trap Hole, but Winda is immune thanks to the fact that it cannot be destroyed, and Bottomless destroys before banishing. At this point we had negated his Lair of Darkness, which he now plays another one, so his effect is live once more. We decided to get Shaddoll Incarnation back because it is our only real target for having a chance in this match so far, as we cannot fuse because he doesn't use his extra deck. We draw into an Ariel, which is absolutely horrible, so we decide to just set the Incarnation, and pass our turn. Lair of Darkness is not going to do anything because no monsters were destroyed this turn. So now that Arana can be activated stealing our cards again, he does so, and we decide to bring back Apkalone once again. Apkalone's effect is now going to negate his Lair of Darkness, to which he chains a Super Poly, bringing out Predaplant how do you pronounce this? Therovariantum. It's a big-ass dragon that kills special summon monsters. That's all you need to know. We do set a beast off of the effect of Wendy to draw us 2 cards, and we get into Shaddoll Fusion. And Shaddoll Fusion is going to be key here. Ariel gets flipped up, though not and destroyed, as he manages to set Falco. Falco will now bring back Abkalone once again, however face down, unfortunately, so it doesn't get an effect. Lair of Darkness is now negated, so we are free to go off using our Shaddoll Fusion. He has no cards in hand. There's one way out of this, and that is to get Construct. We activate Trick Crown and Beast's effect, hoping to draw into an additional card, which we do, which unfortunately a Mathematician, and we special summon back Trick Clown. We then drop a Wendy, setting ourselves a Squamata, just in case. We then fuse into Predator Vertiata Conda, which he decides to hit using his Predaplant, which we go, okay, that's probably the correct option for him, because he thinks Dragoon is coming, but it's not. Construct goes in for the immediate kill, and at this point, we're in a decent position, considering Lair of Darkness is negated, so we can't tribute the Construct, unless he draws into another one. He doesn't, and instead plays Traptrix Mermello, adding Void to Trap Hole to his hand, which will destroy any 2000 beater. He then overlays into Castell, and Castell is horrifying. Castell attempts to return Construct to the deck, to which we chain El Shaddoll Fusion, bringing ourselves another Construct. We then use Re-Shaddoll Incarnation in the same chain to flip open Squamata to destroy Castell. Hedgehog's effect in the graveyard activates, giving us a Falco to hand, which I believe is the last Shaddoll in our deck, and luckily for us, that's just enough to take the game. With a win in our belt, we go into game number 2, and our starting hand is yet again not exactly what you'd like to see. Our opponent starts off with a Mermello, once again getting Bottomless Trapple to his hand, and then linking into Traptrix Sarah. Sarah is horrifying because it can do so many things. The Phantom Shade Brigade gets activated, setting it to Sarah's zone, and Sarah allows it to summon another Traptrix monster, which is going to be Mantis. Mantis ends up setting Trap Hole Nightmare, which is terrifying as he goes into Time Thief Redoer. Redoer is a huge issue for us because we don't have consistent removal, and Redoer can just bounce over and over again. As he attempts to activate Redoer's effect, I decide to Ghost Ogre early just to make sure it comes back with no materials. And when playing Foolish Burial, we get hit with a Gravedigger's Trap Hole. We go in El Shaddoll Fusion in the same chain to go into Winda. And we manage to get a Falco onto the board. We also destroy his Bottomless Trap Hole thanks to Dragon's effect. We use Winda to bash over Sarah, and leaving both now Time Thief Redoer and the second Traptrix on the board. Our opponent then activates Arima's effect to get a Lair of Darkness to his hand and activate it immediately, going into Lilith, Lady of Lament, dealing with our Winda. This is going to be bad. Winda's effect is going to activate to bring us back an El Shaddoll Fusion, but it's no way we can currently use it. Falco gets attacked, and we are attempting to bring back a Squamata in order to deal with Redoer once again. Redoer attacks into Squamata, and we decide that enough is enough. We'll break Lilith to ensure he can't loop once again. He creates another Sarah using his Traptrix monster and passes turn, creating a token with Lair of Darkness. At this point, we are in a very bad spot. Our opponent activates Different Dimension Ground, meaning that any card sent to the graveyard this turn from our side is going to be banished, meaning we can't really do any Shaddoll shenanigans. He also sets Gravedigger's Trap Hole twice. We are not in a good spot. We're forced to set Turtle, setting both of the cards in our hand and passing the turn, hoping that we can draw into something that can deal with Time Thief. Unfortunately for us, however, our opponent simply placed the second Arena in his deck, getting himself Diabolos, special summoning Diabolos, and this is gonna look really bad as he goes into Tornado Dragon, and I go, okay, we're screwed from there. Let's scoop them up, go to next game. Game number 3, and yet again, our starting hand this time around is decent, but there's not much we can do going first. We go for an El Shaddoll Fusion, going into Construct early to make sure that we are setting up in case he decides to start doing stupid stuff. The worst he could do here is get a Lilith in his hand as well as a Lair of Darkness, but he normal summons Traptrix Mermello, which we Ash Blossom, making sure he can't get anything. He then uses Monster Reborn to get our Squamata back in order to go into Castell, which is sad news for us. Castell then returns Construct to the deck and attacks into our Beast drawing us 2 cards, one of them being Ash Blossom, one of them being Falco, both of which are not going to be helpful. Our opponent then sets 2 cards and then passes the turn to us. We're yet again in a bad spot. We're simply going to set Falco and set our Called by the Grave and pass turn. Our opponent goes straight into battle phase, beating into Falco, to which we set back Beast in an attempt to draw additional cards. Our opponent then sets one more card and passes the turn back to us once again. We draw into our third Ash Blossom, which isn't helpful. We activate Beast's effect, which get met with a bottomless Trapple, which we kind of expected, but at the very least we were able to draw something. Our opponent then activates Droll and Lockbird, which thankfully for us this turn does not matter whatsoever, because we won't be drawing any other cards. We then set a Twin Twister and pass turn. Our opponent then attacks into our Shaddoll Hedgehog, to which we draw a Shaddoll Fusion, which is going to be super important because it's the only way we can gain advantage here. When he plays Lair of Darkness, we fire off a Twin Twisters early in order to pop as many things as possible as he normal summons Lilith. Lilith gets swiftly met by a Call by the Grave, and we pass the turn. We then go into Shaddoll Fusion to bring back another construct, which is very required at this point. We dump an Incarnation, get our Trick Clown onto the board, and use Hedgehog to draw into a Dragon. We then go into battle phase and beat over his Castell, and now it's looking better. We managed to swing back somewhat in this game. Our opponent on one card set, one card in hand, manages to draw into Mantis, which is probably the one out they had at the moment. They go into Sarah, activating the effect of Shade Brigande into Sarah, giving him another Murmello. Murmello is going to destroy El Shaddoll Fusion, unfortunately, and then set a Gravedigger's Trap whole. At this point, he goes into another Time Thief for Duel with a trap on it, so he can return Construct to the deck. Oh no, he had an out all along. It was all planned. Trick Clown manages to recur itself once to protect us for one turn, and we draw into Mathematician, which is not enough. Time Thief Doer also stole Super Polymerization off the top, which is probably the one card that could have gotten us out of this situation. During his second turn, he steals a Beast off the top, then activating Reasoning, which I name 3 again, but it turns out to be 4 as he draws into Mantis. Dragon's effect gets activated attempting to bounce Time Thief, but Time Thief, of course, using its effect to banish itself for a turn, then come back. He then starts to flood the board with Traptrix monsters, and... oh boy. Nightmare gets set. Alameris gets summoned, meaning he now has a negate on board, so we can't exactly deal with Redoer once it comes back. He gets a Lair of Darkness off the Armina effect in hand. He attacks into Dragon, Dragon is destroyed, and we take a hefty chunk of damage, and at this point, the only card that can really do us anything is going to be Shaddoll Fusion into Construct. What is our top deck? A Wendy. Yeah, that is not going anywhere. So unfortunately, we take a loss against Traptrix. For match number 2, we are going up against the fated Shaddoll Invoked Mirror. Our opponent plays Alistair immediately, which gets hit with the fattest Ash Blossom of all time, going into the traditional Almirage Secure Gardener combo. Our opponent then sets 3 cards, apologies. Oh wait, all of them, and then passes turn. On our turn, we have a Shaddoll Fusion live, which we decide to use to go into Construct to deal with a Secured Gardener immediately. Dragon's effect activates, to which we attempt to destroy the card that he just flipped over, which turned out to be Sinister Shadow Game. So he is indeed playing Shaddolls, and he wanted to summon a Shaddoll card, and we said no, it gets hit. We then banish his Alistair Engrave to make sure that it's not coming back, activating Foolish Burial to get a beast onto the board. Our opponent then flips up a second Sinister Shadow Games by sending a Wendy to the graveyard. He special summons a Hedgehog face down. He then activates Torrential Tribute, which I wasn't prepared for. A lot of chains happen at the same time at this point, but Construct manages to get ourselves a Shaddoll Fusion back at the very least as we set a Hedgehog and pass turn. Our opponent then plays a second Alistair, which gets hit with the second fattest Ash Blossom of all time. We draw into a Super Poly, which is going to be important in this matchup, considering the fact that we have the same extra deck, essentially. We do flip up Dragon, and we decide to use our El Shaddoll Fusion to go into Winda. Winda is very good here. We manage to set another beast onto the board as we go into battle phase, beat over his Alistair, giving him a hefty chunk of damage, setting our Super Poly, and then passing turn. Our opponent, can you guess, plays another Torrential Tribute. How many of these am I going to have to deal with in the same game? He blows up the field. Winda, of course, surviving because he can't be destroyed by effects. We decide to set a Wendy face down, to which he activates Dynamiscus. At this point, we preemptively use our Super Poly, essentially, to ensure that we have something on the board. Our opponent then sets a Beast as we draw a Shaddoll Fusion back to our hand, setting a Dragon. At this point, I debate whether or not it's worth bashing into Beast, but I say, yeah, you know what, it's probably worth it. He draws 2 cards and discards a Gamma off the top. We set our other Super Poly and we simply pass the turn. If you could believe it, he gets his third Alistair, and we don't have the third Ash for this one. Magical Meltdown gets activated, searching for an Alistair, to which he invokes into a Didgeridoos, which is going to be an absolute pain to deal with because it can simply blow up cards on the field. However, he doesn't really do much with it, blowing up Dragon, which is completely okay, as we use Shaddoll Fusion to go into Shekanaga. We go into Shekanaga for a very specific reason, because a Didgeridoo is going to try to blow up a card on our field, which we can negate using Shekanaga and destroy it. We do that, Shekanaga set in defense mode, which was probably the worst choice here, as Abkalon beats over his third Alistair, and at this point, we're looking decent. Or sorry, this would be his third Alistair because he returned one using Invocation. He draws an Invocation again and then goes into Makaba using our Trick Clown. That bastard. He uses Invocation's effect, which he has a second one in hand, meaning he now has 2 Makabas on board. He decides to go for striking down Shekanaga, which I don't really understand why, but okay. We get our Shaddoll Fusion back, which is very, very good here. We go straight to battle to beat over one of his Makabas, because, of course, Abkalon can't be destroyed by battle. We set 1 card, and we simply pass. Our Super Poly is still in the back in case he decides to pull some shenanigans. He activates Invocation's effect, shuffling Alistair back to his hand, attacking into our Falco. He decides to negate Falco's effect to special summon something back, which makes me question why, but we draw into Instant Fusion. So I decide to fire off Instant Fusion, knowing he has Invocation in his hand and that I can't really use it. We activate Raijin's effect to flip it face down and go into the battle phase to beat over it. He does, however, decide to chain Alistair to protect it. I'm a little bit questioning as to why, but you know what it is. We activate Shaddoll Incarnation in the graveyard to flip Raijin face down, making sure that we can still have it. We attempt to activate Shaddoll Fusion, but he actually has the spell in his hand to negate it. That's painful. He goes into the battle phase and simply decides to beat over Raijin, which I decide to let go through because there's no point in using Super Poly on a card that I wouldn't want to use. And then the good stuff happens. We draw into our own Alistair, and at this point we can swing the game massively. We decide to activate Invocation using the cards in his graveyard to make our own Makaba, to which he flips Shaddoll Schism. Schism is terrifying. He decides to get rid of Makaba, activating Construct's effect, but we have the Super Poly set. We fuse away his Makaba and his Construct, going into our own Construct. Oh my god, that play made me so happy. For once, we get a 2-for-1 off of Super Poly, which happens very rarely for us. He decides to set an REL, trying to get one of his banished cards back, which arguably, yeah, I kind of want him to. I go in with Abkalon first, allowing him to get a Hedgehog back. Probably shouldn't have done that in retrospect. I allow Construct to go through to punch his Hedgehog, so he can draw a Shaddoll card to his hand. Alistair goes in for 1,000 points of damage. We then go into Predapat Verde Anaconda, getting ourselves an El Shaddoll Fusion onto the board, activating Anaconda's effect to use one from the deck to go into Winda and end our turn on that, hoping he doesn't have anything. But of course, Magical Meltdown. He goes into Schism once again, getting rid of our Abkalon in exchange for Schism's life as we dump a dragon from the effect. We use our turtle to negate the attack from Abkalon and force him to go into Gravity Controller. He then banishes 3 cards from our graveyard, which ends up not mattering all too much as he sets 2 cards and passes turn. We have 2 El Shaddoll Fusions in our hand. And he flips another Schism, and at this point I know there's no recovery because our deck has run out of Shaddolls. We actually got to the point where we used our entire deck but just could not get in for the last points of damage. Despite the misplays, we're heading into game number 2, and here is where it gets interesting. Our opponent yet again activates Alistair, this time not met with an Ash Blossom like last game, goes into Almirage, goes into Secure Garna, no surprises here, activates Invocation to go into Mekaba, gets Alistair back to his hand, sets, and passes turn. Oh boy. So at this point, we decide to go into Instant Fusion immediately, going into Raijin once again, so we can force the Mekaba face down, no negates on the board. We activate our own Magical Meltdown, drawing us our second Alistair, playing Alistair as a normal summon to get Invocation, and then now we actually have use of his graveyard, so we activate Invocation to make sure he doesn't get use of his Almirage going into Purgatrio. Purgatria goes in and beats over Mechaba, but he flips a Dynamiscus once again to banish our Purgatrio. Unfortunately for us, we are forced to set an El Shaddoll fusion, Raijin getting destroyed during the end phase because we have no way of flipping it down, and we just have to accept the fact that he now has it. Alistair gets normal summoned again, but he decides not to use... For some reason, right, he decides not to use the invocation immediately, because if I had a Super Poly set now, I can use both his cards to get my own Mechaba. Regardless, he passes turn after attacking. We attempt to Shaddoll fuse, but it gets hit with an Ash Blossom, unfortunately, so we fire off El Shaddoll fusion early, attempting to negate his Mechaba. Mechaba becomes negated as he banishes some cards from our graveyard. We beat over his Mechaba, and then normal summon an Alistair. Alistair fetches invocation, invocation gets fired off, and we go into our own Mechaba. We attempt to get Alistair back from the hand, but we get met with a Skullmeister of all things, meaning we have to wait until next turn. Our opponent then uses invocation of his own and goes into Purgatrio. And at this point, I'm wondering, do I have to boost using my Alistair and force him to use it as well? So I do that. I actually force him to either use his Alistair to boost, which I know he only has one of in hand to save Purgatrio, or to play it again in order to use Invocation. He decides on the latter and goes into Yurigirigidis, which is unfortunate because it is at 4,300 attack at this point and it's terrifying. But we should have a way out of it. We go using Invocation's effect to shuffle it back into our hand, once again summoning Alistair to get it back. We activate it and go into Mechaba. There's a reason why we do this. Here, I don't know why I decided to activate the Magical Meltdown I had in hand, because it could have been a negate for... It could have been a negate for Mechaba, but I digress. Arigides does not have a target right now, so he can't increase its attack. He decides to go into a Mechaba of his own, unsurprisingly, and he decides to crash them without returning Alistair to his hand, which is really strange, because he could have gone out of that winning, to be fair. He then ends his turn switching Arigides to defense mode, and our pull is not great. We do get an Alistair to our hand, we decide to set Shaddoll Incarnation, and then we decide to do something strange. We go into Verde Anaconda. Anaconda gets destroyed, but the whole reason we did this was to get our hands on an a Shaddoll fusion, because we need to go into Construct. Once we have Construct onto the board, this game takes a massive turn. We manage to destroy Schism before it really becomes an issue for us, getting a Trick Clown and a Beast onto the board for free. Construct will attack into our Didgeridoo, destroying it immediately, and although our life points are looking very sour, we are in a fairly good spot in this game. He does get an Alistair back, but he decides to set it face down because he has nothing that can destroy the Construct. We flip Beast face up, attempting to draw into 2 more cards, and we get ourselves both of the fusion spells that we desperately need to come back to this. We then use Beast to beat into his Alistair, which I'm surprised is there, but he does get his invocation back regardless. Construct goes in for a meaty 2,800 points of damage. We decide to set our El Shaddoll fusion, making sure that we have a backup in case he decides to pull a board wipe, as well as setting Squamata, and then we pass turn, knowing that he's going to use invocation again, but he surrenders! Oh, that's awesome! Well, it all comes down to this. Game number 3 against the Mirror Match, and our starting hand is pretty freaking good. We don't really have a starter to name anything, but we do go into Mathematician, which gets met with a Gamma, which is unfortunate, but at that point we just decide, okay, let's just pass turn, see what you got. Our opponent has 1 set card, which I'm assuming is another Schism, as he activates Alistair, which gets met with the fattest Ash Blossom of all time. At this point, we now set 1 card, activate Super Poly using his Alistair in order to go into Mechaba, getting Trick Clown's effect to special summon it back to the field once again. We go into the battle phase and we begin beating his face in. Our opponent draws a card with 1 card set, simply sets a monster and passes turn. Ooh boy, this is going to be a quick one. We normal summon Alistair, play Invocation. It gets met with a Cosmic Cyclone? Well, I can't get it back now, I guess, but I have a Purgatrio on board. And his face down card is a Wendy, which means he's forced to special summon something else. Purgatrio just goes in for a second attack with piercing damage. It's going to attempt to destroy something, but we are going to negate it using Mechaba and go in for the win in 2 turns. That's more like it. An awesome ending to that very, very close matchup. For game number 3, we're playing up against the new archetype found in Genesis Impact, Live Twin, and honestly, I had no idea what to expect here. Our opponent activates Secret Password, which gives him a Live Twin home, which he activates in order to get Live Twin Keys a kill, and Live Twin the other one. Leela is the second one. Essentially what this deck wants to do is use the two Link monsters to loop back into one another over and over again, because one special summons the other if it's not present on the board, and it is terrifying. This, blended with the fact that they're of course running Dogmatica, which is just an engine that I despise going up against, is bad. Nadir Servant, Dogmatica Punishment, you can see where this is going to go immediately. Boy, Titan-clad the Ash Dragon gets activated, of course, drawing them into other Dogmatica cards. We decide to go into Winda early here, getting Dragon's Effect to pop the back row as he special summons Fleur-de-Lis. Wendy is now negated. We don't really have a follow-up play for this. He keeps looping the Live Twin cards back and forth, which essentially destroys and negates cards, or draws cards, depending on the order that you summon them in. That, on top of the Dogmatica engine, is really hard to deal with, and I will be honest, when I played this game, I wasn't expecting this to happen. Regardless, he links into Unicorn, flipping one of our cards back up as we activate our Ash Blossom in hand to get rid of it. He then goes into Unchained Zola of Disaster, and at this point he just starts breaking everything on the board as he goes in for a clean game number 1. Game number 2, we're going back at it again, drawing 2 Ash Blossoms in our starting hand, which is of course the most unfortunate thing we can do. We decide to set only a Hedgehog and pass turn, hoping he can't pop off. Keys to Kill comes out again, which we decide to hit with the Ash this time, but it doesn't matter as he has Secret Password, which can draw him into Live Twin Home, which special summons the second one. This whole deck is really reliant on getting those 2 monsters onto the board, because without it, they're not really going to be able to do anything. However, at this point, they have no issues going back into the combo, once again, summoning Evil Twins, which is, you know, their counterpart, I suppose. They then decide to destroy the Hedgehog, negating its effect as it goes into Nadir Servant, getting Ecclesia. Ecclesia gets summoned. You can guess where this is going already. Punishment's going to get set. He has one of his Evil Twins on the board and can bring the other one back whenever he wants in order to pop a card. Ooh, boy. So how do we get out of this? Well, an Alistair would help. It wouldn't win the game, but it would help. We draw Squamata. We attempt to activate Foolish Bear to get an Alistair into the graveyard, going into Mechaba using one of his Evil Twins in the graveyard. Of course, I clicked the wrong one, meaning he can pop Mechaba with no issues whatsoever. We do, however, get to normal summon an Alistair this time around, but that gets hit with an Ash Blossom, and at this point, it is good game to them. I need to keep my eyes out on this archetype, but oh boy, it is strong. For duel number 4, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. I'm going to summarize these duels in just a few sentences. Game number 1, our opponent gets Vanity's Ruler turn 1, and we lose. In game number 2, our opponent gets Vanity's Ruler turn number 2, and we lose. Vanity's Ruler has turned out to be the most difficult card I've had to deal with, as our only out to it is Gamma Seal currently. Not a great time. But while that wasn't a great time, our 5th and final duel for today is going to be going up against Cyber Dragons, which turns out to be a very interesting duel, actually. Our opponent normal summons their Cyber Dragon core, getting their Cyber Dragon Veer onto the board, activating Cyber Emergency, which I hit with an Ash Blossom, hoping that he's going to discard a card to get it back. He doesn't. He goes into Verte Anaconda, and for some reason, he has Dragoon. I don't know why he has Dragoon, but that is a really difficult card for us to deal with. We attempt to activate our El Shaddoll Fusion, which gets immediately negated, so we are forced to set an Incarnation and set our second El Shaddoll Fusion, also setting Dragon, hoping to return something to the deck. At this point, we are looking horrible. Of course, Dragoon is going to attempt to pop the card. We attempt to chain El Shaddoll Fusion, but at this point, we are just dead. It doesn't matter what we summon here, because he's just going to beat over it, and we're just going to lose. That's a very, very quick game 1, isn't it? But game number 2 is much, much different now that we know what we're going up against. And we start off with the strongest card in this matchup, which is going to be Pankratops. Our opponent, yet again, goes into Cyber Dragon Core, drawing a Cyber Emergency, getting himself a Cyber Dragon Hearse. He then activates Galaxy Soldier's effect to search for another Galaxy Soldier, special summoning himself by discarding a card. He gets himself a Cyber Dragon and Galaxy Soldier to his hand, doing the combo once again, now having 2 level 5 machines, meaning he has a guaranteed Infinity. Infinity is a very, very scary card, because just having the negate is terrifying, but it gets worse. He also gets back into Dragoon once again. Now we have to deal with both Cyber Dragon Infinity and Dragoon. Oh boy, that's 2 massive negates. Can we actually get through that? I believe we can. We special summon off Pankratops immediately because Pankratops is going to be a key player here. We attempt the Shaddoll Fusion, which gets met with the first negate, and we El Shaddoll Fusion, which gets met with the second. But then we have the magical meltdown, allowing us to draw into Alistair. Since he now has no negates on the board except that 4k beater, we do decide to go into Invocation using the cards in our hand to go into Apkalone. Apkalone is going to negate the effect of Infinity, and then with the cards we sent to the graveyard, we set a beast. We then use both of our face-up cards in order to go into Predaplant 30 Anaconda, activating Super Polymerization to deal with Dragoon. This gives us a Wendy and an Apkalone on the field. Since Cyber Infinity is now negated, we can simply beat over it and beat in for a massive amount of damage to our opponent. Since he can now only special summon once, I don't think there's much he can do to recover since he needs Galaxy Soldier to go off twice. He does special summon the Galaxy Soldier in defense mode, drawing a Galaxy Soldier as well as a Cyber Dragon off of Hearse's effect. He sets 1 card and passes. This is marvelous. We normal summon a dragon using our Anaconda to beat over the 0 defense Galaxy Soldier, Apkalone to beat into the Cyber Dragon Hearse, which draws him another Hearse to hand, and then we just beat in for game. We managed to out 2 of the strongest negations in this deck. I am pumped. Game number 3, our starting hand is actually much the same here. It is very strong. Our opponent decides to go first and normal summoning Hearse again, which this time he attempts to activate Machine Duplication immediately, which I meet with the fattest Ash Blossom of all time. He then uses Galaxy Soldier's effect to special summon it onto the board, going into Seeger. Not entirely sure why he chose to go into Seeger over something else here, but we'll leave it as it is. So with Seeger and 1 face down, I believe we can swing this game in our favor immediately. We activate Shaddoll Fusion in order to go into Construct, getting Dragon to pop his back row and Trick Clown onto the board once again. This is becoming a very standard combo for us at this point. We then drop Falco in order to special summon it to the board, making sure that we have another target to make another Construct. We then activate Magical Meltdown in order to draw into Alatir Lister. Haha, I forgot. Then going into Invocation to use Invocation's effect to go into Mechaba. Mechaba and Construct on the board are very strong at this point. We then set our Reshaddoll Incarnation and our El Shaddoll Fusion, using Construct effect to beat into Seeger. Seeger's effect is going to activate, doubling its attack, but it doesn't matter because it was special summoned, so it's immediately destroyed. Mechaba goes in for a fat 2,500, and we pass the turn to our opponent. Now with a negate in hand and a reoccurrence, he attempts to go into Galaxy Soldier, which I immediately use the fattest Ash Blossom of all time to deal with. He special summons Cyber Dragon and then normal summons Cyber Dragon Dry, which is going to make them both level 5, allowing him to go into an Infinity. Infinity again is very, very scary. He does manage to get rid of our Mechaba using a special summon of his Fortress Dragon. While we do chain a lot here, he attempts to get our Construct off the board by stealing it using Infinity. However, we activate El Shaddoll Fusion in order to build our board back up and go into Apkalone, negating Cyber Dragon Infinity. Now that Infinity is negated, there is literally nothing he can do. He attacks into Dragon. We decide to flip Dragon back, Infinity back into the deck. Apologies. We activate a Shaddoll Fusion going into our other Apkalone, which is going to set Fortress Dragon to 0 attack. We are going to just normal summon Alistair for the absolute giggles this time. Activate Invocation, honestly just because we can, to go into Purgatrio because it's funny. Beat in with everything, and that's going to be game. Good matches. So today, for the first time in a while it feels like, we have actually earned no start chips whatsoever, thanks to the 2 giant defeats against Live Twin and Vanity's Ruler, essentially. I am starting to feel now that the deck is powerful. Like, I can get to the point where it's hard for our opponent to recover unless they get something very specific, i.e. Torrential Tribute. But once we get Dragoon, we are going to go into Phase 2. Phase 2 is essentially us switching from a multi-type deck, where we can go both first and second, to start moving towards a going second deck. But for that, we're going to need an absolute butt-ton of cards, Dragoon being the first one, but after that we're going to have to look into getting Nibiru, Borosaur Dragon, and probably the most important card of all in a going second deck, Dark Ruler No More. Thankfully, Dark Ruler No More can actually be acquired from quite easily because it's in the Charmer structure deck, so I may end up picking that up just because. But not to keep this going any longer than it has to. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please click the subscribe button, because watching that number makes me happy. Leave a like and comment down below, and remember, you're always free to suggest challenges or other things you'd like to see me do. And as always, stay safe out there.